Oh my gosh, yes. This is the Derby
latte, and it's so
She's
good.
really not interested. She tricked us.
I know,
Okay.
she did.
I got so excited. All right,
hilarious.
whatever, man. All right.
She's
Just
going
the
straight
producer.
there.
Yeah. All right. We're back.
Finally,
Camille,
I feel
know.
like it's been a minute.
I feel like it's been a hot minute, and that's probably because we're two moms, and just all we've got going on at Mutiny, and then the summer schedule with kids, and
I've got a lot of kids
farming
this summer.
Oh, and do you have more than you did last summer? You're like,
Yes.
I just got a lot of kids this summer.
I do.
Yeah.
More than I had last summer. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, we're glad you're back with us on the Mutiny Mom podcast. Before we got started here, we were just doting on these Derby pie lattes. So Patrick, here's to you.
The ASMR or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. This is us trying to be relevant, and it just doesn't work. But we'll hook you up with a great, latte and crock pot recipe. We can do that. There's a lot of stuff that Camille can do, and we're going to jump in today. So, Camille, it has been a hot minute, a hot second. Tell me about your world, life on the farm, life as a mom. You kind of alluded to it, just the craziness of summer.
yes, it's crazy. My kids are all at skating camp. They go ice skating because we play hockey and do figure skating. So I've got the kids
You
squared
figure
away.
skate. Do you all know this about Camille?
I mean, I'm not like an aspiring
Yes, you are.
I mean, maybe, but
Have you seen that online where they're like, there's no committee, like you can say I'm aspiring Olympian or Olympian in training, and they're like, hey, no one's there to regulate it, so you should put that on Olympic.
I told you my word of the year, right? It's enough.
Oh shoot,
Because
okay,
I'm going
against your word.
I go like 200% into everything I do.
No.
Like I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to do this, and we're gonna perfect that. Everything has to be perfect. And so like my kids started ice skating lessons, and I was like, well, I'm gonna be there. I might as well get some exercise and do it with them.
Of course she did.
And like
This woman's crazy.
I found myself. I'm like, stop competing against the 8-year-old girls. And I'm like, I'm gonna move up faster than you, little sweetheart.
I'm gonna be in the bronze class. All right, sister.
Well, I
No.
think I'm actually.
I think it's so
in,
cool that
I
you
think
did.
I'm Delta. Let's see, Beta. I'm in whatever the most advanced one before you get into like freestyle.
You actually you and then our mutual friend Suzanne.
Yes.
Both. Okay, so she was taking tennis lessons with her daughter.
Yeah.
Like doing it. You were taking, I was like, that's a really good way as a parent, especially as moms, where you're like, I try to, like, I don't like it when the influencers online talk about hacking everything, but if you can take like that quality time with your kid and get the exercise.
Yes.
Or I think it's really cool you did that.
Well,
by the way.
and I might get trolled for this one, but it blows my marbles that so many parents drop their kid off, which my kids are under the age of 10. Okay, just keep that in mind. But I see other parents with kids my age, and they just drop their kid off at the activity and then come back. I'm like, what if my kid gets hurt? What if my kid, anything? Like,
Right.
what if they get stolen? I always stay, and I try not to be on my phone so much. So that was me trying to be really purposeful.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So you guys at the farm, you got your crop planted.
We did. And I need to find like some really hardwood. We haven't had too bad of flooding this year. So if you guys have followed me on social media for a while, you can just scroll down on my reels and stuff. But we get flooding every single year. We are extremely flat. We have probably 2,500 acres of extremely flat ground. Like you get a 3-inch rain in a short period of time, the whole field's underwater, like submerged underwater. And so again, knock on wood, God has blessed us this year, and I'm just really hoping he's going to give us what he needs. Our crop it's almost too good to say out loud. So we're going into tasseling. Even my
crazy.
latest planted corn, I feel like we just got done.
Yeah.
My latest planted corn is up to my shoulders. So it's going by really quickly. Soybeans are anywhere from my last planted beans probably have 5 trifoliates on them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're rocking and rolling. We're full R2 on those. And then my first planted beans, I was in them yesterday. We're at 13 nodes going to 14. It's just,
Is that picture you shared?
one of them? Yeah.
Yeah. One thing, you guys, that I think is so important to know about our company. So at Mutiny Crop Performance, across the board, those of us like I think about our national agronomy manager is not just going to talk about a product vaguely or from reading something on an Excel sheet. I mean, she is walking, observing, taking notes of products, like trials them on her own farm to learn where they do and don't work. Same for before we even got in here, I was telling Camille.
Yes,
on
I want
my
you
farm,
to please go into detail about how you tissue tested last year and the changes you made
Yes.
this year and what you're seeing.
Yes, and I think about our family farms are very different in terms of the crops that we grown and just the just very different from each other. What's been really neat for both of us is I was like, okay, last year I had this in my tissue testing across the board, moly deficiencies, zinc deficiencies. We don't have liquid on our planter. I incorporated the go time pails on both corn and beans, and I just got back my results, and my score, as you saw, looked so fantastic. I mean, there are opportunities, and we will throughout the season, to make sure that we're tracking and learning against what we know to be true about the crop, but also what we know from last year's test. And so to not see a single zinc deficiency when that's normally popped up is such a big deal. And we're able to address that with a very cost-effective, with the go time pails, right? So just know that about the products that we talk about. It's not from a sales one-pager. It is from on our own farms, writing our own checks with our own eyes, own tissue testing. So we're going to talk about that today. Both of us nerded out over Derby pie lattes and tissue testing this morning. This is who we are. Just let us be, okay, people? But Camille, I would love for you to talk about, it's not only on your farm, but you are leading us in this at the company, just the overall importance of tissue testing so far. And then we're going to get into something that we're doing really different and really cool that all of y'all need to be reaching out to us at Mutiny, because you are going to want to implement this on your farm. It is a game changer in how we pay attention to the crop in the season. So
I love that you brought that up about your farm. And we do grow. So she's a tobacco farmer at heart, and they grow corn and soybeans too.
And cows. Cows are my love.
I love cows, especially right now. They're offsetting some of the losses we're having in the row crop
Actually, let's
space.
be honest. I'm a professional donkey farmer.
Yeah. Have we talked about Ruth on this podcast?
I don't know, but we need a whole hour.
Well,
so
really quickly, and then we're going to dive into tissue testing. Talk about, you bought this donkey, and there was a big surprise that came with the donkey.
It was like, I now know that song, Mary, Did You Know? I have a different connection to it. So I have wanted a donkey my entire childhood. My dad said, no, we're not getting a donkey. It'll be in the way. What will it do? All the things. My daughter said, Papa, we'd really love to have a donkey. To which he said, absolutely, and surprised us on Christmas with a donkey named Ruth. She is precious. She's Ruth the donkey on TikTok and on Instagram. She is the sweetest little donkey. Little did we know when we purchased Ruth,
I'm dead.
She was a bred donkey. And so we aren't experienced the thing about being a professional donkey farmer. Surprise, it's not true. We didn't know we had a bred donkey, so we had a surprise birth of a little boy donkey named Danny, and he is so now he'll be a year in August. And he's kind of in this, like, we call it his teenage phase, because his hair like comes down like a swoop right now, and he's a knucklehead boy. Like he's just a knucklehead. So we now went from 0 donkeys to 2 donkeys. And my dad is so happy about this. You know, it's just the added layer of responsibility that he needed in his life as a farmer. So
yeah, but the granddaughters ask, and so he delivered.
He delivered twofold, not intentionally.
So funny. Okay, I had to get that story because I feel like that's just too good.
I think I was like, so, hey everybody, we just had a donkey baby, and they're like, we didn't know that you're donkey, and I was like, we didn't either.
Oh my word, that's funny. So let's get into some of my babies this summer. So we've got the crop, but we have interns. So this is year 2 at Mutiny Crop Performance for our summer internship program, and it is just going so great, Kirby. We've got a group of 9 students this summer. So last year we had 6. This year we have 9. And
the business is growing. We are getting to, more importantly said, the we have more and more farmers that we get to work with, and so we added on interns to make it happen.
Yes, and you guys have learned this by now. We are very hands-on. Like,
yep.
You will never see me show up and sell you a product and then show up a year later. We're hands-on. Yep. We're going to help you through the season. And my goal with you is to save you money or spend your dollars and get better returns on the investment. Right. So reallocating stuff, pulling back on stuff where it makes sense. And the way that we get this done is by being in the field. We've got to be in the field. We've got to be digging up plants. We've got to be splitting stalks and stems. We've got to be taking pictures and documenting things throughout the season, along with tissue testing. We're going to talk in a minute about RNA testing, mm-hmm. but we do all of these things leading up to yield because we know sometimes the weather gets in the way, mm-hmm. and we may not end up seeing a yield response, but did we affect the plant in a way that was setting us up for more success? So that's something that my opinion is learning and evolving. You might catch me this week and I'll say one thing, and then 2 weeks later I've already learned something new and I've evolved my recommendation. But as farmers, both of us write checks on our operations. Like, it's very hard right now.
Yep.
And the last thing I want to do is make a bad recommendation and spend somebody's money and potentially put them out of business. Like, that's how serious this is, Kirby. So if we're in the field and we're walking and we're looking and we're documenting, that's setting us up to be able to give better suggestions and recommendations for 27.
Yeah. That's what I love about and I call it our tissue testing system, because it's not just, our interns and us, and this is all with Camille, and then also a member of our team, Mally, do such a good job of like, here are the weather conditions that are best for testing. Because if you pull tissue after it's been dry for 14 days straight, your results are not going to be, you can go ahead and do it, but you just need to fact check that right. in knowing here was the scenario. They on growth staging, like at what growth stages do we actually pull tissue tests so that we can impact the season?
Yep.
All of these things, Camille trains our interns so they're not going out blindly. But then also what I love about it is it's a this year thing and it's a next year thing. So I can track in season of what is getting into the tissue this year to make adjustments. And you I love that you said the way that you did, Camille, because it's not only most people think in our world, like in crop nutrition and foliars, we're going to like ask for more or have the next silver bullet.
It's quite opposite usually.
Usually we're like, take that out.
Yeah.
Take that out. You don't look at your results.
Yeah.
You don't need that. And then what's really, really great is that we pull tissue throughout the season at the right time and at the weather-wise, growth stage-wise, and then it sets us up for success. So then when we get to the end of the season, what we're looking at is a great picture of the crop. So for Camille, I'd love for you to answer this. I hear this time and time again, like, oh my gosh, tissue testing's so inaccurate, and I don't know, like I did it before, I don't really know what it tells me. Every year's so different in farming and ag. What would you say to that?
I agree if you do it the way that it was first introduced. So the way when I first started tissue testing, you got every Monday at 8:00 and you're going to pull in that field in the same spot every week. And we have learned that tissue samples can be drastically thrown off by weather conditions. And so you said earlier, well, just make a note. I've kind of learned to argue back and disagree a little bit, because I would rather have 2 very, very good samples than 6 to 8 mediocre, because they're going to jump all over the board.
Yep.
Right. And
good point.
And I think a lot of people try to be very reactive. They're like, they'll call and they're like, where's my result? And I'm like, it'll be here hopefully tomorrow. But really, I don't want you reacting to all these tissue tests. I don't want you going to spending. Now, if you're pushing for 650 bushel corn like David Hula, or 200 and something bushel soybeans like Alex Harrell, you may have a better understanding of how to keep those levels, and they've got irrigation so they can control the weather a little bit better. But the average grower like me, like you, I'd rather have 2 than 6.
Well, and but also what's great is that you pick up on trends versus outliers. So if you get all of your samples, like I told you last year, it was zinc across the board. And I know why, based on like just all of our, what our setup is, right? But then you see those trends, and then it's not the exception, it is the norm.
Yes.
And you know that. And that's what I love about it, is that you don't chase randomized, but you have a collective picture of the crop. And then, as you can imagine, at the end of the year, I was just looking at data from Ohio from last year, for example, like the 2025 season in review. Well, guess what? It tends to be the trends are pretty consistent across the board.
They are.
So that's what's great, is that on your own farm, and that's what I'd say, if you're if this is new for you, or even if it's something you've done in the past and you just don't feel like it's worked, you need to reach out to us at Mutiny, because I think this would be a game changer on your farm. But
yeah, and we're not just doing a standard tissue test, and we've talked about this before, but we were going through some data the other day with an owner of a company that we work with, and they were able to find a trend that anyone that worked with this tissue sampling database last season, and they're participating again this season, their scores are 20% lower compared to last season. So again, we took the trends. We don't want to go out every single week when conditions may be up and down like this, but we want to go out 2 to 3 times in corn, 2 to 3 times in beans. Find several fields that are a good representative of your farm and your acres that you farm. Find the trends, and then the next season, we know we need zinc. We know we need more molybdenum. Whatever that might be, address them. We might be able to pull back. Hey, boron was way too high. All 3 tissue tests that we pulled for every field, we actually don't need to spend as much money on boron. We still need some, but we don't need what we were doing.
That's right. That's the beauty of it. And then what I love about working with Camille, she talked about, I can't just go to the figure skating class. I need to be like, I'm going to now do the Olympics. Well, surprise, surprise, she does this on the work front too. And so Camille's like, I take this tissue testing protocol and I raise it to the next level. So this is what's been so fantastic, is that Camille is always trying to not only ground truth the existing products and like all the things, but then how do we evolve it to the next version? So I would love for you to talk about that today. You're doing this on your own farm. You're leading us with our interns, and at the company, we're exploring something this summer, and that is RNA tissue testing. Talk about that.
Yes. So this is, I think, the next direction that we're going to go. It's something new, and with all things something new, there are learning curves, right?
Sure.
So I should have brought it in. I had it in my pocket just a while ago because I was out in the field, and you'll laugh. I said this yesterday to the leadership team, but we've got 2 interns in the state of Kentucky. That's where I live, but I don't let the intern come and do my personal farm.
Because why?
That's the only way I learn. I've got to be out in my field, touching it, loving on it, praying with it. I'm just kidding. But
no, she's not.
I've got to see it. A picture doesn't do enough for me. And I actually posted something on my social media this morning, and somebody said drones and interns. I'm like, yeah, but if you're out in it, you can see, are we starting to fire with nitrogen in the lower leaves? Do we have gray leaf spot creeping up the bottom? You can't always gauge that from a picture. I want to touch the diameter of the stalk. I want to do some push-pull tests. Like, I'm doing all the things. Yes, I'll let our awesome interns come and do some of that with me, and he's got a couple things that he does. But,
for sure.
But you need to be out in your field. So this RNA testing, I can scroll really quickly, Kirby. The RNA testing is really, really neat. So you take a hole puncher. It's quite literally a hole puncher. And rather than ripping off the leaf like a tissue test, you find that most fully developed leaf and you hole punch. In between the edge of the leaf and the margin, right in the middle of the leaf, you just hole punch it. Go across just like you would to pulling a tissue test, a plantar pass. So 15 samples. Goes into this little hole puncher, and then you have this little vial of solution. You immediately put the hole punch leaves into the vial and shake it up. That way they don't decompose, because with the RNA, it can decompose really quickly. So you have to protect it. And so then we get it to the lab as quick as we can, and it comes back. I've just been impressed.
Yeah.
So I have never seen my dad get excited about a tissue test. Okay, never. He's
even when you all started doing this last season.
Yeah, and he's still, I don't understand it. I don't really know. He just trusts me with it.
Yeah.
Right? Like a good dad. It took several years to earn that.
We talked about on the last Mutiny Moms podcast, the whole, what do you get your dad for Father's Day? So here you go. I mean, Camille's about to give it to us.
Yes. Yeah. This RNA testing, it's inexpensive for the information that you get. Yeah. So I'm doing 5 fields. We can only do corn and potatoes right now, okay? But 5 fields you put in your yield goal, you put in the planting date,
You did 5 fields is what you're saying for your farm.
Yes. You can do as many as you want. I wanted to get a good average. So I did 2 fields that get water.
Okay.
Every single year.
Good choice.
3 fields that we're pushing.
Yes.
So you put in your yield goal, and then when the result comes back, like I said, my dad got excited. So you get this yield response index. And what that means, it's basically so RNA, let me back up. RNA is in between DNA and protein. So protein is the doer. It's telling the plant what to do with its DNA to get stuff done. So the RNA is basically, we have the DNA, that's the directions. We have the protein, that's the doers. And are we actually getting that done? Hopefully I explained that well. So you get the result back and you have this yield response index. And so this is measuring the plant's biological alignment with the yield goal that you put in. Extreme weather conditions can affect this. Disease pressure can affect this. Nutrient imbalances can affect this, which is what we've been really focused on. So this is one of the fields that we're pushing. I put in the yield goal, and it shot me back that we're at 99% of that yield goal. And we're going into tassel.
Yeah.
So being able to see that on the screen, we've got another field that we put in a pretty optimistic yield goal, and it said we were at like 110% of that goal. It's just really neat to be able to see. So
it's just a new way of tissue testing too, because it's more it's obviously more complex. We like both, by the way. Like we like
definitely. I still pulled a tissue test in the same
spot. We do both. Yeah, because it's almost like a different layer of a metric. But I remember when we were learning about this, Camille, you brought it, and there's like 30,000 genes, 35,000 in a corn plant, and the light switch, like the dimmer analogy of how, like, okay, then we know these 6 light switches. If there's like 30,000 when they're at these levels, then that's how we know some of these reports that Camille was talking about. So it's fascinating. It reminded me of a dimmer light switch.
Yes, it's not either off or on. No. It can be at different levels.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's really, really neat to see. And again, it'll change throughout the season as it goes through weather events and stress and all that kind of stuff. But it also produces a nutrient response index.
Yes. So
you can like click on all these nutrients, and it will give you information if you're elevated, aligned, or suppressed. This does not give you 5% nitrogen in the plant. That's not what it's telling you. It's not a tissue test.
Right.
We, on this field here, we actually pulled down our nitrogen level, and it says we're still elevated. And elevated can be a bad thing. It means that it's suppressing other nutrients. Sure. So trying to put the information with the tissue test that you do with this new RNA sample, we want to get things more aligned and balanced. Are we wasting too much money on some of these crop inputs? Where do we need to be? How can we pull back and maintain yield or get better ROIs? It's not always about chasing that high number.
Right. I think what we also see in the world that we live in is we talk about how do we maintain yield and get better ROI, but what we see, Camille, the balance that you're talking about is that we get better ROI and increase yield.
Yes.
And it depends on so many different things. So I don't even want to say that, because farmers know this of all people, because the weather is a component, right? It is a component. But then we look at these kinds of metrics across the board, and we just make better informed decisions. That's why, going back to why do you tissue test thing, the 2 examples Camille gave you today, it's like, okay, so wouldn't you rather have those 2 in your hands throughout the season than just say, I don't know, it could get skewed,
And then you pair that with root digs, looking at the roots, looking below ground, splitting a stalk, looking at the crown of the plant.
Talk about what you're working with our interns on, and you and Justin have done such a good job of bringing this component in of where we've been weighing the plants and some of the big learnings so far, because that is such a big deal. I feel like all of our eyes have been open this year because of where we have weights. And then sometimes if we're just looking at tissue versus, and I say just looking at tissue, it's brought something to our attention where we're like, oh, well, they're both equal on this and the tissue, but then we weigh them and we're like having some like new insights.
Well, and I feel like I've started saying this almost every day. The more I learn, the less I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 13 years of experience doing this, and every single day my mind is just blown wide open. So when we're looking at some of these trials, you tried liquid litter and moat. That's one of my favorite in-furrow products on corn. You might get some data back. You have a treated versus an untreated. They were planted same field, same day. Everything's the same. We've got a lot bigger plant where we put the liquid litter and moat, but we might get a tissue test back. And most of the time this isn't the case, actually. We've seen really consistent results with the liquid litter.
Like that, yeah.
But maybe we have 5.2% nitrogen on the treated and 5.2% nitrogen on the untreated. And this ties back in with what we've learned working with Advanced Agrolytics Group.
Yes.
When you build this bigger plant by V6, so we might have a V6 plant, let's say it weighs 62 grams treated. Same field, same everything I just said. We might have the untreated, it weighs 47 grams. Nitrogen comes back 5%. When it goes to the lab, Kirby, it is not factoring in how much biomass is out there.
Sure.
So if we have the same percentage of nitrogen in that plant, but we have a lot bigger plant, that's a lot more nitrogen in the plant.
It is.
So, and it's hard to wrap your brain around. I mean, I sat there, I was making this big spreadsheet for my interns to put in this data, and I was like, was this right? Is it wrong? And I just kept thinking about it. And I'm like, no.
What does this mean?
Yeah. What do I do with this information? But when we build this bigger plant by V6, your yield ceiling's higher. A lot more has to go wrong for it to not yield at the end of the season. And so taking weights into account, and we've trained the interns on how to do this and do it consistently to make sure we're not throwing off data. It's important.
It is. And I hope you guys will keep following along too on social media, because we're going to keep posting pictures throughout the season where we continue to show this. Camille's doing this on her own farm across the United States. We are doing this as we pull tissue tests because, and I know we talk a lot about tissue testing. I think we've said that now. If we had a tally mark, like during the podcast, it'd be like ding, ding, ding. You know, take a sip of your Derby Pie latte every time they say tissue testing. But we believe in that metric, but it's one of a lot of other layers to help us make better decisions.
And again, the more I learn, the less I know. But what we're finding out is when we can balance more of this stuff in the plant, we get less disease pressure, less insect pressure. The soil's working better for us to do things. And oh, by the way, we're going to see a better ROI because we're not spending crazy amounts of money on nitrogen and dry phosphorus and some of this stuff. It's just it's I feel like we know 1%.
No, I hope that I think whenever you're starting out in your career, you're so hesitant to say that, but then you get more experience, more mature, and you think, this is actually a good, healthy thing because you posted the other day of being like a student of the crop in the field, and in all of our areas in the company, we all are students of our thing that we do, as we should be. To me, it's that might sound scary to some people, like, oh, someone who says the more I learn, the less I know. I actually think that should be encouraging, because
I do too.
That is what we all want as a part of our culture, because I think it drives us to want to be learning things like the RNA testing and what's coming up and how do we constantly get better, because not just for ourselves, but most importantly because of the farmers that we serve. That's why we do it. So Camille, I know coming up here soon, we've talked a lot about tissue testing on your farm and the RNA testing specifically. So we're about to go into fungicide season. Anything that you're seeing so far across the country on your own farm, any plans that you're going to tweak or keep the same this year? And just for our customers, it's really hard to say everybody should be doing this. However, there are a few of those and probably some observations that you've had, especially from tissue.
That's a great question. So most of the southeast, we're going into pollination for corn. Some places are already past that. We work with a bunch of guys in Louisiana, and they're about to get the combines ready. But overall, we're getting extremely close to the fungicide pass. We've got to be thinking about what we're going to do, and hopefully we're making very educated decisions. I know for me, I was sitting down penciling just yesterday what fungicide and what insecticide, and that needs to be based on the conditions and the pests present in your field, and that is hard. It is so easy. I used to work for one of these big ag companies, and I did the dance, but I tried my best. Get out in your field. What diseases do you have? What insects do you have? Do you have any diseases or insects? Because we may not need a $20 an acre fungicide.
Right. Well, I think about
a $6.
That's right. And I think about our own product lineup, and just, we have now quick shield
Yes.
that we're adding in furrow. We're not saying you're not going to need a fungicide application.
Right.
The point is, though, we're doing a lot at the planter
Yes.
shortly thereafter
Yes.
to have a healthier plant.
Correct. Well, and we balance things, like I said. I think
Yes.
disease pressure is just naturally going to be less. But get out, evaluate. That it's so, so important. Like across my acres, a $20 product versus a $6 product. That's
a big
big
deal.
money.
Yeah.
Big money. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, I'm looking at the trends. We talked about this earlier, the trends that I've seen on my farm leading up to this pass. So for me, we had a pretty good period of rainfall. And it's been nice. We haven't had really too much except for a couple of situations, but seeing sulfur is lower compared to last year.
Okay.
And then potassium, I feel like always just starts to drag right around pollination on corn and on soybeans too when we get into reproductive stages. I've said this on this show before, but both of those crops are luxury consumers of potassium. So for me, what we are going to be gearing up for, which actually I passed my husband on the way here. He's spraying corn right now.
Okay.
Sultrain.
Yep.
We're going to use 1 to 2 quarts depending on the situation, just to get a good amount of sulfur out there. We saw that last season, sulfur increased every single nutrient in the plant.
Yeah.
It didn't suppress. We can get sometimes if we get too much of one nutrient, it hurts the others. Sulfur wasn't the case. So we know we need sulfur. The Clean Air Act happened in 2004. All these plants had to clean up the air. We're not getting that sulfur for free like we used to. I do feel like it can get overlooked. We can address sulfur foliarly.
Sure.
So if you didn't get it in with your nitrogen passes or at the planter or even pre-plant, that's a really good option. So that's what we're going to do. And the potassium acetate, it's a cheap commodity. We don't have Y drops. We're not going to stream stuff on late. If you have that, I actually love Cadillac late season.
Yep.
Put it right where the roots are going to take it up. Okay. Once we get into tasseling and reproductive stages, we get way less root uptake and we start to get more mobilization from the leaf into the ear. So I do think that's an important reminder. Once we pass tassel, you can still get some in through the root zone, but once we're past that, we're moving nutrients to that ear.
Sure.
So those two are big. Then I actually told my husband on the way here, y'all will laugh at this. So we've got a couple products on the truck. So he gets his fungicide pass, everything loaded on, and it's just a whole truck of foo-foo juice and some fungicides and insecticides. But I was like, how about this? I want you to write it down what you do, but do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and let's try some of this. So we've got Boremore next. That we're going to do. So boron and molybdenum are really important. So boron will help your ear get filled to the tip. It helps with just grain fill in general. It'll help the pods on the soybean side, better pod fill. And molybdenum helps the nitrate reductase cycle keep doing its thing. So we need to have molybdenum. So that is a really, really good option during this time as well. On the bean side of things, we've got pumping iron. So iron helps get that really, really good dark green. It's really important for a lot of functions in the plant as well. I'm not going to get too nerded out on all this stuff. I get excited. So we've got that. And then we've got, let's see, what else? I had one more. Pumping iron. We've got some Revival on the truck still.
Okay.
So
perfect.
I'm not going to go throw the kitchen sink at it. That would be silly. But we're going to do 1 or 2 things in every field that we go in. And on soybeans, depending on where you are in the United States, I think the insecticide pulls the most weight. I really, really do.
Sure.
If you've got stink bugs hitting the windshield of your combine, you lost yield. Just write it down.
Another metric, right, of what you're saying. I mean, it's so important. It goes back to when you talk about like being a student of the crop, of all of those pieces. But just know, I mean, when we're talking, if you hear us talk about a product like Revival, that's a great example. So yesterday, added in Revival on my own farm, right? We're using, and so I just need you guys to know that
I've just seen it work too many times. You need that Revival.
You do. And it's not just a product on a PDF sheet. For us, we know that it pays, which is why we use it on our own farms. So I hope you guys are confident in that recommendation. I think all the products that Camille just said are super important. But I think we know these trends in the crops that Camille just talked about when it comes to fungicide timing. and we can make a really good recommendation. However, I just think that having a tissue testing protocol in place this season, we make a better recommendation across the board for the fungicide pass, for whatever, the planer, all of it. So it's not too late. And no. I say that actually, depending on where you are, it could be too late.
Yeah, it could
if you're down south. But I would rather have a tissue test at Tassel of something to get started and seeing, you know.
Now, once we get to about R3 on both crops, corn and soybeans, that's where I'm going to tell you the data it's not meaningless, but it's not very meaningful.
It's not the full picture. That's right.
Because like I said, we're translocating everything into grain fill, whether it's corn or soybeans. We can still get a good read. So VTR1, even in the milk stage of corn, everything's going to start to drop. But I do feel like we can get some good information. You can even get a good test at R3, but once we're beyond that, that's where I'm going to say, okay, let's just go and sit down and look through the results and plan for next year at this point.
Let's look at trends. And then, yes, if this is something that, depending on what part of the world you're in, but some of you guys, you know, you're north of us and we home state of Kentucky, you have a world of opportunity to implement this on your farm. Like it's
been so wet in some of these states. They're just now. I was talking to one of our TSMs the other day, and he was at a farm and they were planting corn.
Yeah, that's right. Some replants, I know, even just got wrapped up in certain parts of the world. So depending on where you are, that was some good guidance. So I know we got to wrap up, Camille. I think for both of us, I hope it's very clear we are excited about this RNA tissue testing. I think it's going to be a big deal. Already we're seeing the fact that after one test, we're saying we're so glad we're doing this.
And I don't know if I finalized what my dad said.
Oh, yeah, no.
So he didn't really get really excited about much. I mean, he's excited about a lot, but in this space, he's like, I don't know. But I started showing him this. He was like, we need to make sure we have enough bin space for the corn, which it may not. God has to give us the weather we need during grainful. Yeah. But at this point in time, going into pollination, I'm really pumped up. And for the amount of money that it costs to do an RNA sample, I think it's very valid information. And I loved what you said first before we got into all this morning. People, I think, sometimes think when they see companies like us doing tissue tests that we're going to ask you to spend more money. And so they're like, I'm just not going to reach out to them. I just don't have the money to spend, or I don't want to spend the money. A lot of times we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars based on some of this data, and we're going to help you just make better choices.
I think about the crop planning conversations that you and I were involved with this last winter, which is where we took the prior year tissue test. We took, let's look at your soil samples. Let's look at tissue tests. Tell us about your yield goals. Tell us about your budget. Like all of those came into those decisions. And there were substantial savings we reallocated, and we're seeing it in the tissue test. We're seeing it visually in the crop. We're seeing it with the biomass weights already, where we reduced the spend overall and we reallocated it to a better way. And our customers are like, this is looking good. I'm pleased with the tissue results. I'm pleased with what I'm seeing in the field. In some parts of the world, we're already able to get a peek at that ear, depending on where it is. So that is the goal here. It's not the next silver bullet. This is going to give you 5 bushel. It's how do we make those better decisions? So, Camille, we always end every episode for you. What's been a game changer lately? Is it having 9 interns? Is it RNA testing?
It's Mally.
I
don't think I've publicly shouted her out.
Mally McGee.
I have wished for several years that I had someone to help me, because I'm kind of a free spirit. Like I go really hard, but sometimes I slack in the office side of things. It's just hard to keep up and do everything. Mally was an intern that we had in last summer.
Yeah.
And she was a rock star. And so she earned herself a full-time job at Mutiny Crop Performance. And she is in Mayfield, Kentucky at our home office. And she is, she kind of floats between Kirby and me and Justin and Patrick and Hunter and Eric and
everybody.
Yeah, she is awesome. She has a lot of tenacity in her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that I lack a lot of. I discern and I overthink and criticize everything, and sometimes you just got to get it done. And so having her added to the team this summer, especially having more interns than last summer, has been just a breath of fresh air.
For sure. I'll echo your comments too, because Mally's agility and flexibility too, whether it's something that you're working on in the agronomic world, or maybe it's something I'm working on for us in the business, or whatever it may be. I'm going to say SOPs, and everybody's like, ah! But Mally, she actually texted us during the podcast interview. She texted me. So this would be my other
She like Camille
game changer.
And Patrick, and they won't get back to me on these
She
SOPs.
sent this picture of Hunter reading.
Look at that.
I know. I'm like, let me hold
So
it.
we are reading. I know we have to go. We're reading the Energy Bus because Kirby is making us as a Mutiny mom, and it's been so good for me to read because, especially right now, this year, last year, the ag space is a very, very negative place. There's just a lot of stress and everybody's depressed. I don't say everybody, but
it's a very difficult economic. It's a hard time to be in ag, whether you're at the farm gate, whether you're in a sales role or an agribusiness. And I think it's really important, and I'm not trying to be a false like lemonade out of lemons person.
No.
But there really is we've already talked about it on today's podcast. I had a mentor that said, hard is not bad, hard is hard. Mm-hmm. And I tell my girls that all the time because I want them to know just because something is hard does not immediately mean that we associate it with bad. There are some hard things that are bad. But however, we refine. The only thing that causes us to get better, to refine ourselves to, is the hard stuff, right? We've talked about it today. How do we make better decisions on the farm? How do we improve our bottom line? How do we get through on this part? And it's the hard, tough times. It just is. And we all know it. If you ever think about moments in your life where you had so much growth, or you're most proud of yourself, it's not because everything was going right. It's the opposite. And so that is why, so if you've never read The Energy Bus, it's a fictional story and it's very short. So for people that don't love to read, it's like a really short little book.
It's less than 3 hours on audio.
Yeah. And that has been, I think we'll look back, and for our team, like it gives you language stuff for things too. Like we're on the Energy Bus and I'm driving the bus and I don't want to.
They're not getting on my bus.
They're not getting on my bus. I'm kicking them off the bus, and that's an energy vampire. It's like all this like little.
But why did you choose that book for us?
I've read it before in my career. I think there's also a version for kids, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a similar story, but it's like smaller and it's like a kid book. So I did that with the girls this summer for a summer reading project. I think it's one of those that
she has summer reading projects for. I love that.
Yes,
I just love it.
But I think it's one of those that it's just always the right time to talk about, because this is what I know to be true. A positive and making progress energy of a team and an organization is so attractive. Like that's what we want our customers to know. Like you've got discerners in the hard times and people that think through this and take this very, very seriously. And we are a optimistic minded group. And if you have that, it just grows. It just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, you know? So that's the kind of culture that we want. And I love that Camille's had our interns reading it as well, because I think it's so important for them to know as they go in their career. Like I've heard it said, if you show up early with a great attitude and work hard, you're gonna be fine. Like you really are. And I think there's so much to having a positive attitude about situations. Like everyone always says, like, well, I'm not an optimist, I'm just a realist, like as if it's a badge of honor. And you have to be realistic at the same time. It is a whole lot more work to be optimistic.
Whole lot more.
Because it requires you of like orienting yourself towards the future and what you can change and what you can impact. And at the end of the day, if you have those two scenarios, like which one do you want to be around? You want to be on the energy bus, the positive energy bus.
I feel like a lot of times one person can drag the whole thing towards this negativity, and everybody, it just bleeds on people. Yeah. So I love it. I've been telling the interns, you've probably heard me say this, and I guess my dad taught me this because I've approached life this way, but I don't feel like you get jobs by being the smartest person. You showing up every day with a positive
that's applied
attitude.
To me in my career. I've never been qualified for any job I've ever had. So
like, I don't feel like I'm overly qualified for this job. I feel like just showing up every day, and this is what I teach the interns, showing up every day like it's a job interview. I don't care what you're doing. You could be cleaning out a trash can, sweeping the floor, hoeing tobacco, you name it. If you show up every single day like you're on a job interview, you will get to where you want to go in life.
Yeah. And you'll have the right people. Other people will want to be on your bus.
Yes.
This whole like energy bus metaphor. If you are the kind of person, and it doesn't mean that you're out of touch with reality. It just means that you say that you have a mindset about what you can impact and change, and that drive towards progress and optimism. I think it becomes something that other people want to be a part of. And that's what you said, why did we pick this book? Well, it's been a game changer for us. And I hope we'll say that even a year from now, because it's part of our culture. And that's what we're like, this is the kind of bus we want to drive.
Yeah.
And we want y'all, come on, hop on the bus. If you want RNA testing, tissue testing, and you want to be a part of the Mutiny Energy Bus, come on our way. So that is all for today. Until next time. We went over a little bit.
It's good. Okay. It was
Eric can cut.
We hadn't done it in a while.
Yeah, we had a lot to get out.
Well, like the one I listened to the other day was an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's a little long. I kept going, oh my gosh, is it almost to the end? But it was good information.